Protecting our health is what we need. It's time to flush the TPP. Protecting the environment is what we need. It's time to flush the TPP. Protecting the human rights is what we need. It's time to flush the TPP. All right, everybody, thanks for coming out. I want to just have an opportunity for a few experts on this issue and on the TPP to give you an opportunity to hear what are some of the main concerns and the grievances we have and the reason we're out here today. So first I want to invite Brent Blackwelder, who is the former president of Friends of the Earth, to come and share a few words with you today.
For 25 years, Friends of the Earth has been objecting to these outrageous trade deals. The TPP is the latest in this series of outrages, and it's going to touch every aspect of life. But if you look back on what's been done, have things gotten better? Has the gap between rich and poor closed? No! Have wages gotten better or been depressed? Yes, depressed. Exactly. Are our oceans healthier or in worse shape? Are we losing forests and productive land left and right? Yes. And who's controlling it? Gigantic corporations. Who is the beneficiary of this? And in particular, some of the biggest beneficiaries will be the biggest polluters, because this TPP is going to be a polluter's delight, because this feature in this agreement, the TPP, is secret tribunals. I thought we were about democracy. I thought President Obama wanted democracy, but they're going to decide in secret tribunals challenges to health and safety laws. This is not theoretical. Look at what happened in Ecuador, where Chevron, Texaco spilled oil all over the place. The indigenous people's living was destroyed. Their health was undermined. They filed lawsuits. They won one case after another. It was shifted from the United States, so they won in Ecuador. So, having lost and been adjudged to pay billions, what did Chevron do? They went to a secret court. They held it right down the street here. I was out front. We couldn't get in. 3 persons deciding that the judicial system in Ecuador was no good, and that Ecuador had to pay Chevron rather than the reverse. What is this pay the polluter? I thought we were not supposed to shove externalities off on the public. We need a true cost economy. This is for cheater economics. This situation is going to be repeated again and again with the kind of Chernobyl rainforest oil spill that we got there. So if you want openness in government, if you want healthy ecosystems, a healthy fisheries for the oceans, we have 7 billion people on the planet. We cannot keep undermining the sustainability of life, but that's exactly what's going to happen when you reward things like exports of dirty fossil fuel projects. And here's what they intend to do, for example, on the West Coast at Bellingham. The United States' biggest coal export is planned there. What'll happen? 54 million tons of coal going out. Well, we know the coal dust will probably destroy the Pacific herring there, undermining the food chain at the very time we're trying to recover food chains. And the very time we need to go to renewable energy, they're underwriting and subsidizing the polluter. It's a polluter's paradise. So where do we go? Well, let's not have a dagger put in the heart of democracy by President Obama. Let's protest. Let's demand a trade agreement that sustains a true cost economy, makes polluters pay, and not the reverse. So what do we want? True cost, polluter pays. No more secret tribunals.
Right. Thank you, Brett. From Friends of the Earth, one of the key environmental organizations that has been taking a stand and has been on the front lines of opposing these types of corporate-led agreements that are not about protecting the environment or public safety or their public health, but are about supporting corporations and giving them more power over our daily lives. And just to put a finer point on it, there are actually 600 cleared advisors the USTR, the vast majority of them, almost all of them, are corporate lobbyists and representatives of the largest corporations. And so there is no surprise that the rules that end up coming out of these negotiations do not benefit the public. They benefit those who have been sitting at the table. And just to why don't we turn your sheet over for a second, and we're going to do another chant about these corporations that are really leading these negotiations and telling the other countries on the TPP to stand up to the extreme proposals that are being pushed by U.S. corporations. It might be really good for Monsanto, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Big Pharma, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Philip Morris, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Walmart, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Wall Street, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for the frackers, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Cargill, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Chevron, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Monsanto, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Cargill, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Wall Street, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Philip Morris, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Walmart, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Big Pharma, but it sure ain't good for us. It might be really good for Big Tobacco, but it sure ain't good for us. All right, give it up. Woo! That's the message that we have here to the corporate advisors and to the negotiators who are leading, who are going forward in these negotiations without consulting the public with keeping the negotiations secret, but making sure the corporations have plenty of access while we are locked out. Next, I want to introduce you all to Ken Paris, who is the chief economist of Communications Workers of America, an important labor ally in this fight since the beginning, and they've been doing incredible work to raise awareness with their members and to speak out against these atrocities. Come on up, Ken.
Thank you very much. I'm also not just chief economist, but I am a CWA activist, as we all are. And we want to welcome the negotiators from the 11 countries and the negotiators from the United States here to Washington, D.C. in our country. And we want to remind them of a basic principle that's been practiced throughout our history, from the Revolution, to the Civil War, the Civil Rights movements, women's movements, consumer, labor, environmental, LGBT, all these movements. And it's something called no justice, no peace. What did I say? No justice, no peace. So we want to remind those negotiators who represent the interests of Big Pharma to extend their patents and get monopoly rents, their profits, increase their profits by keeping prices artificially high and denying access to affordable, life-saving drugs to millions of people. We want to tell those negotiators who represent Big Pharma,
no justice, no peace.
What was that?
No justice, no peace.
We want to tell those negotiators who represent the interests of big oil and gas corporations who want to deny the right of the Department of Energy to conduct public interest assessments and to automatically permit export of natural gas without any review, automatically, so that they can not only increase fracking and exports, but increase prices by 3 times, hurting jobs in the U.S., hurting consumers, and hurting the environment. What do we tell to those negotiators?
No justice, no peace.
What?
No justice, no peace.
To agribusiness.
No justice, no peace.
Okay. To To big tobacco.
No justice, no peace.
To Wall Street.
No justice, no peace.
To all multinational corporations that want to undermine our wages. Remember, they want to put our workers in competition with countries like Vietnam, who have a minimum wage of $2.23. That's not an hour, that's not a half day, that's for a full day's work. What do we say to them?
No justice, no peace.
All the multinational corporations who want to continue to offshore millions of our jobs. They offshored 700,000. We lost 700,000 jobs because of the increased deficit with Mexico because of NAFTA. We lost a net 2.7 million jobs because of China's entry into the WTO. We lost 40,000 jobs in just 1 year because of the Korea Free Trade Agreement. They want to offshore millions more. What do we tell them?
No justice, no peace.
Come on, do better than that. They can't hear you. What?
No justice, no peace.
To all those multinational corporations, to the negotiators who represent them, who want to erode workers' rights here and in countries like Vietnam, or the State Department, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, the ambassador to the U.S. have all indicated and categorized that Vietnam violently suppresses human rights and workers' rights. What do we want to tell those negotiators?
No justice, no peace.
Those negotiators who want to continue to undermine our sovereignty and our democracy so that corporations will be able to challenge any U.S. law, rule, or regulation that adversely impacts expected future profits. It's any protection. It undermines our sovereignty. What do we tell them?
No justice, no peace.
Now, we support trade, but we want fair trade. Can I hear it? Fair trade.
Fair trade.
We want to uplift the health of people. We want
Fair trade.
We want to uplift jobs, create more better jobs. We want
Fair trade.
We want to increase wages and people's standards of living. We want
Fair trade.
We want to increase workers' rights and human rights throughout. What do we want?
Fair trade.
We want to improve the environment. What do we want?
Fair trade.
We want safe food. What do we want?
Fair trade.
We want affordable drugs. What do we want?
Fair trade.
We want democratic rights protected and expanded. What do we want?
Fair trade.
We will remind those negotiators that we want fair trade, and if they don't give it, they will have no justice, no peace. They will have what?
No justice, no peace.
They will have what?
No justice, no peace.
One more time. Hear them.
No justice, no peace.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, and the Communication Workers of America. Give it up. All right. It's really important for everyone to know here that this is not a done deal. They are trying to make a deal. They have been trying to make a deal for years. They have missed deadline after deadline after deadline. That's why they're meeting behind closed doors now to try to meet another deadline that they've already admitted that they missed, which was supposed to be in October. We know they're missing that deadline, and the reason is because the extreme proposals are so controversial that that some other countries are standing up, and there is strong controversies in the negotiations. And we need to lift up those controversies and make sure that the most extreme proposals do not go through. And that is why they're having a hard time making a deal. And that's why we are here to say, don't rush, folks, because we do not want the kind of deal that we are seeing coming out of this. And one of the things that President Obama and USTR is going to say to some of their colleagues is that, don't worry, this will be easy to pass in the United States because we're going to get fast track. What's fast track, everybody? Fast track is a way is a legislative luge run through our Congress that makes it impossible for us to have a voice, and for Congress, even our elected representatives, to have a voice and to be able to make sure that this agreement will benefit the United States. And it is important for us to know that this is not a done deal either, and for President Obama to know that this is not a done deal. We are out, but there is a that there is a replacement of this extreme delegation of congressional authority so that we can have a trade agreement that actually supports the people. And so this next chant, it talks about both the TPP and fast track, because it's only through fast track that the TPP would have a chance in the United States. And we want to make sure the chief negotiators know that this is not a done deal. Because people with AIDS are under attack, we say no TPP and no fast track. Working people are under attack. No TPP and no fast track. Good paying jobs are under attack. We say no TPP and no fast track. A healthy environment is under attack. We say no TPP, no fast track. Human rights are under attack. We say no TPP, no fast track. Affordable medicines are under attack. We say no TPP and no fast track. Our freedom on the internet is under attack. We say no TPP and no fast track. More giveaways for banksters, and we want that to be under attack. No TPP and no fast track. People with AIDS are under attack. We say no TPP, no fast track. Working people are under attack. No TPP, no fast track. Good paying jobs are under attack. No TPP and no fast track. A healthy environment is under attack. No TPP and no fast track. Human rights are under attack. No TPP and no fast track. Workers' rights are under attack. We say no TPP and no fast track. Thank you, everybody. All right. It's also important for us to know that we are a group here today sending a message, but we are joined by people all over the Pacific Rim. We are part of an international coalition that has been organizing in all of the TPP countries. And so the next chant is about that, and for the chief negotiators to know that we are joined with them. Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Japan, the people are united and we're taking a stand. Peru, Chile, Mexico, Canada too. We demand fair trade, not a corporate coup. All right, read it with me. Do it with me. Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Japan, the people are united and we're taking a stand. Peru, Chile, Mexico, Canada too. We demand fair trade, not a corporate coup. Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Japan, the people are united and we're taking a stand. Peru, Chile, Mexico, Canada too. Demand fair trade, not a corporate coup. Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Japan, the people are united and we're taking a stand. Peru, Chile, Mexico, Canada too. We demand fair trade, not a corporate coup. All right. So next, I want to invite Emily Worth, who is the Water Program Director from Food and Water Watch, to talk to us about some of the key food safety issues related to the TPP. Come on up, Emily.
Hi, thank you all so much for joining us today. And I'd like to say I'm standing here on behalf of the more than 60,000 members of Food and Water Watch who have already spoken out against the TPP. We're speaking out against the secretive trade pact that's being pushed by the U.S. government to benefit multinational corporations at the expense of the public interest. And so we're here today to tell the TPP negotiators in there that we are watching and we will hold them accountable no matter how secretive they make their negotiations. So today I'd like to describe a few of the food issues that associated with the TPP. So this will have an effect both on our food safety as well as for U.S. farmers and fishermen. So first, this will undermine food safety standards and allow vast quantities of potentially harmful seafood to be imported into the U.S. Seafood that's farm-raised with chemicals that are banned for use in the U.S. Already, 1 out of 5 of shrimp, 2 out of every 5 salmon, half of all of our crab and catfish, and 3 out of every 4 lobsters eaten in the U.S. are imported from a TPP country. And so this deal would increase those numbers, put American fishermen out of work, and put American families in harm's way by exposing them to chemicals that shouldn't be used to produce seafood. We can't have that. TPP would also undermine efforts to let consumers know what's in their food and how their food's produced. This would weaken our efforts for country of origin labeling, as well as labeling of our genetically modified foods, and we have a right to know what's in our food. Furthermore, this will target the buy local programs that are being developed across the country. We're developing a demand for local foods to be served in schools, hospitals, and other institutions so that people can have access to healthy, locally produced foods. So we can't have these things. This administration has called this deal a gold standard. It's a gold standard for corporate boardrooms, but for workers and families, it's fool's gold. And so that's why we're gathered here today. We're going to make it clear that we're going to hold our decision makers accountable. President Obama wants to get fast-track approval from Congress on this deal, and we are going to join with all of you to work to stop Congress from approving the fast track. We need to tell our neighbors, we need to tell community members, we need to educate everyone and let them know that we need to tell Congress not to allow fast track of TPP. So thank you all so much. We must spread the word and make it clear that the health of the people and the environment must come before corporate profits.
Thank you, Emily. We're going to flush the TPP. What? Flush the TPP. Huh? Flush the TPP. Say what?
Flush the TPP.
One more time.
Flush the TPP.
What?
Flush the TPP.
Say what?
Flush the TPP.
A little louder.
Flush the TPP.
Even louder.
Flush the TPP.
They can't hear you.
Flush the TPP.
It's time to.
Flush the TPP.
We want to.
Flush the TPP.
Say what?
Flush the TPP.
Huh?
Flush the TPP.
We're gonna flush the TPP. We're gonna flush the TPP. All right. Thank you, Emily. Now I want to invite you to hear from Boyce Thorne Miller, who's from the Northwest Atlantic Marine Alliance, to talk a little bit more about some of the concerns that they have about this agreement. Everyone give her a warm welcome.
I'm here in support of independent fishermen, their families, and their communities. Our oceans are important providers of food. They're not big businesses. If we are to catch fish in the name of feeding people, we need to prioritize feeding those closest to the source, with best nutritional value and with just return to those who catch the fish. If we care about the health of the ocean, we need to make sure regional marine ecosystems do not become biologically depleted. Fisheries should be integrated into their regional systems and should serve people who are part of those ecosystems. In opposition to these concerns, global fisheries markets require large amounts of seafood caught anywhere to feed outlets everywhere. Free trade agreements such as the TPP promote global trade of seafood, which in turn favors industrial-scale fisheries, targeting huge volumes of single species and thereby disrupting and weakening marine ecosystems worldwide. Global trade of seafood deprives people who live in fisheries regions of their local fresh seafood, which is shipped away usually for the profit of supranational corporations. Captured fish deteriorate quickly, so the human health value of wild seafood diminishes as the distance, time, handling, processing, and wastage increase. Global trade maximizes all of these. Marine wild fishery ecosystems suffer as they bleed fish and other seafood into open-ended markets that are never satiated, while fish species are depleted locally for external corporate profits. With global trade in the driver's seat, fishery ecosystems that function on finer scales are overwhelmed by giant fishing operations. And industrial ocean aquaculture only adds to the problem by degrading marine environments. Fisheries for Global Trade are asked to feed massive whole-scale distribution systems and big box retail outlets, which drives down wages and prices, so independent, small-scale, and high-quality fishing operations cannot afford to operate competitively and are driven out of business. To fill the boxes for big box retail outfits, big box fishing operations exploit workers with low wages, and they exploit living ecosystems beyond their natural capacity to keep producing. All these points argue against global trade of seafood. Fast-tracking means these concerns will never be aired, and the possible wisdom of treating fish and farm foods differently than manufactured commodities will never be discussed. We strongly oppose the Fast Track and Trans-Pacific Partnership.
I'm glad to see a fat cat. I would have expected the fat cat to be inside, but I'm glad you came out to join us and that you're seeing the light, that it is time to have a different model. The next, we've alluded before that there are serious public health concerns with what is happening in these negotiations. And to give us some words about that, I'd like to invite Amira Sakira from the national coordinator, who's the national coordinator of the Student Global AIDS Campaign, to tell us a little bit about why they have joined this fight as well, and why people who are living with HIV and AIDS in all the TPP countries are very concerned about this.
So before I get started, I want to teach y'all a little chant that I'm sure you've heard before, made famous by ACT UP a good 20 years ago. Goes like this: when people with AIDS are under attack, what do we do? ACT UP, fight back. When people with AIDS are under attack, what do we do?
ACT UP, fight back.
All right, so when I'm speaking, whenever I start that, I want to hear ACT UP, fight back really, really loud so that those guys in that building can hear us. My name's Amira Sakira, and I'm here representing the Student Global AIDS Campaign, a national network of students and youth across the country committed to ending the AIDS pandemic and assuring affordable access to medications across the world. And I am here to tell the USTR that we will not stand by and we will not sit back as long as they are trying to limit access to medications in developing nations across this world. Because when people with AIDS are under attack, what do we do?
ACT UP, fight back.
When people with AIDS are under attack, what do we do? ACT UP, fight back. When affordable medicines are under attack, what do we do?
ACT UP, fight back.
When human rights are under attack, what do we do? ACT UP, fight back. We're really proud to stand here today with all of our colleagues from so many different movements across this country. The TPP, as it stands now, contains a chapter that would limit the availability of generic medications in many developing nations across the world. Vietnam, which is one of the current signers of the TPP, is a PEPFAR country. The President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief relies 80 to 90% of their medications are generic medications. It is because of affordable generic medications that we have been able to slow the HIV pandemic in the past 10 years. We now know that in less than 30 years, if we scale up the number of people on treatment, we could see the complete end, the complete reversal of the HIV pandemic in less than 30 years. But to do so, we need generic medications. And as long as the USTR gets their way and limits access to generic medications, we will not end the AIDS pandemic. Right now, in New York City, the UN General Assembly is meeting with an eye towards looking at the Millennium Development Goals. How many of you guys remember those goals? So they seem pretty great, right? We're going to stop and reverse HIV, TB, and malaria by 2015, right? They were